Hello everyone, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about using Qi Men for wealth. Now this is both applies to starting your own business and also just generally sectors that you can also be an employee and also gain wealth. And this, what we're looking for in your Natal Qi Men chart is the life door. And the stars and stems in the life door basically describe what area of things where you can earn the biggest amount of money. And it also includes what kind of business might be best for you too, if you are interested in having your own business. But there's no reason why you need your own business. You can do just as good using your properties in your life door in a career. And anybody who's run their own business will attest to this. You do more work working for yourself than you do when you work for others. And that is usually the case unless you happen to buy or inherit a business that is already well run, and then you just have to keep it up. So that's a bit easier. Now, many people do have other priorities in life, like leisure and their family and all this kind of stuff, that make them more suitable to be an employee rather than an employer. And you have to be honest with yourself here. If you don't have a lot of time to dedicate to a business, don't open a business. Don't try to make that your full-time job. You can make it as a side job, but not your full-time job, because if you have other priorities, you won't have time to dedicate to the business enough to make it successful. But like I said, it's really good to consider taking up a side gig. And this is, money on the side in your free time. Hobbies and passions actually can become extremely good side gigs, especially if you're good at what you're doing. But you can also do an extension of your day job. That can also give you a good extra money on the side. And really in period 9, this could be pretty important. But for an example, if you're talking about an extension to your day job, if you are a nutritionist in a hospital setting, you're talking about very, very sick people, of course, and you make sure that the diet that they're fed is good for their condition. But you can extend this to making people have healthier diets with food they still like. So you can get people to stay healthier too. And so you can start a side job that does this. Now, period 9, by all the things that I've heard, is going to likely result in quite a bit of changes with work and to life. So having a side gig might be necessary so that you can survive economic downturns. And you may lose your job because we do things differently than we have before. And of course, people have already lost their job prior to this because we changed the way we do things. Now, investments are also a good way to become wealthy. And if you're employed, that is, you have a career, this is usually the best way to become wealthy. You either have to learn about investment strategies or find a trustworthy financial advisor. This is really, really crucial to be able to invest wisely. Now, investment in general might not be as fast as running your own business, but they are a lot less work. So you shouldn't ignore this. Also, if you live a bit below your income level, that allows you to have money to invest. And that's another recommendation, that if you take a personal finance class, and I actually do recommend you do that, this gives you a good overview of how to deal with this. And this is one thing they always talk about. Make sure you have some extra money so you have something to invest. So don't spend every penny you earn. Of course, when you're starting out, you may have to spend every penny you earn because you have such a low income. And if that's the case, then you look for a better job. You work hard to get a better job so that you do have some money to invest. Now, owning your own business is no guarantee you'll be wealthy. So that is something you also have to know. Only about 50% of new businesses are still in business 5 years after they start here in the US. Now, this doesn't mean these people go belly up, and go bankrupt. They may just be too tired to continue the business because this does take more time. And they'll find another job. Maybe it pays as good, maybe even better than the profit they were making on their business. But when they look at the two, it's worth it. Of course, there are businesses that do go bankrupt too. And many do so in the first couple years. Now, running your own business is not for people who are not passionate about the nature of the work. This is so much harder that if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you simply are not going to be willing to put the time in. It becomes a hard task rather than an enjoyable task if you're not passionate. This is one thing that they will tell you in a personal finance class. Never invest with money you cannot lose. So don't put your food money, your rent money, utility money into this. It's the extra money you have over, and instead of buying the newest iPhone, maybe you invest that money. So now we're going to talk about the spirits and how they influence your ability, or what sector is better for you to become wealthier. So again, look for your life door in your natal chart. It must be in your natal chart. And then look for which spirit you have. If you have the chief spirit, if you want to become wealthy, learn to become a better leader. This might mean that you need to learn to manage better. It might mean you need to interact with people better. But anything that you can do to improve your ability to lead generally will help you become wealthier. If you have the heaven spirit, learn to become more inspirational, or you could learn visual media. Now, this could include movies. This could include YouTube and Twitter, and well, maybe not Twitter. Was it TikTok? All of these things that visuals are important. And this can also work. So you have kind of two possible ways you can go. If you're the earth spirit, now remember, the earth spirit has a connection to the earth, a natural connection to the earth. So you could learn to become better at choosing real estate, because real estate is a pretty good job for you. You might possibly add feng shui. You could also learn new farming techniques if you want to be a farmer, but only if you really want to be a farmer. This could be things like exotic vegetables that you sell to the high-end restaurants. And of course, they have to be organic and all that kind of stuff. That is a possibility. And if you like working in the garden, outside, this kind of thing, that is probably the better way to go than real estate. Now, the moon spirit, use your knowledge to earn more money, and also you must keep learning. You can't stop. The more you learn, because the moon spirit is actually one that can not just learn, but actually process the information and make sense out of it. This is why they need to keep learning, because then they just get better and better. Harmony spirit, they can either work or start a business that brings people together. This could be counseling, especially couples counseling. This could be diplomacy. This could be owning a bar, restaurant, cafe, something like this. Brings people together. You're very good at bringing people together and keeping them happy. Now, the snake spirit, they have also a connection to the land, but they're better about property investing. So if they learn to flip houses, they are the ones who can look and say, this looks like it's going to be an up and coming neighborhood, and they're usually right. And they can buy cheap, fix up the house until the property becomes, in the real up and coming thing, they can rent it out. And then once it becomes up and coming, they can sell it and then use that money in another place. So these people are pretty good at that kind of thing. Now, the hook spirit, this may seem a little weird, but if you choose a job that requires lots of training and qualifying tests, you tend to do better in that job. And the reason is the hook spirit, if they feel they're not qualified for the job, they often have issues, and then it will inflate their ego so that they prove to others that they're good enough, even when inside they don't feel they're good enough. But if they have to have qualifying tests, like for example, the bar for becoming a lawyer, then they know they're qualified. And then that makes them feel a lot more confident. And of course, lawyers can earn a ton of money. So this is one thing that they can look into. And also, another example would be like an architect. An architect has a lot of tests they have to take to become a registered or certified, something like that, architect. So these things where you know in your heart that you're qualified for the job, you will do better in, because you won't doubt yourself. Now, the tiger spirit, if you increase your knowledge about how to use physical activity for improvement, this is really ties into exactly what's good for you, or what you're suited for. So this could be becoming something like a batting coach in baseball. I mean, that is very specific. Or a free throw shooting coach in basketball. And that's physical activity, and you're improving their performance. This could also be personal trainers. There's a lot of things. This could be physical therapy, all these kind of things. But it's usually important that you're talking about physical activity, because you are an active person and you don't like sitting at a desk. Now, the Phoenix spirit, they're good at becoming more, if you can learn to become more inspirational and learn to connect with others through speech, this is what will allow you to grow. And of course, remember, these people are usually good in sales, so they can also sell their own business. So, they just have to have everything in place. They're more inspirational than maybe getting things physically to work, but then maybe their whole point of their business is inspiration. Then they would be quite good. Now, the tortoise spirit, if you can learn to understand and inspire people better, you tend to be able to get a better job or be able to start your own job or your own business. So you can become wealthy this way too. Now we go on to the stars. Again, remember, it's your life door sector in your natal chart. And if you have the ambassador star and you're talking about investment, go for slow, stable growth. And in a job, you'd want to be careful about being in a fast-paced or risky industries, because ambassador star doesn't have a lot of flexibility. So they don't like jobs that change a lot, that the rules change a lot. So this has to do with your ability to adapt. So this is why slow, stable growth makes you feel safer than risky investments. Now, for the assistant star, if you use your knowledge to help people, that usually gets you a better job. If you're a boss, you can be a little too accommodating to your employees. So you have to watch for that if you're running your own company. But if you're just working for someone, if you do this, you tend to be able to move up in the company and therefore earn more money. Now, the heart star is quite interesting. They're quite suitable to do most businesses. They have the skills they can apply to many different things, but they have to constantly learn. They cannot stop learning, because when they do, they stagnate and then don't end up earning any extra money because they're not getting any better. Now, for a hero star, you want to get on stage. Now, stage doesn't mean actually a stage anymore. This could be things like YouTube, TikTok, get on places people can see you and you inspire people. This is the way to really become wealthy. But if you're running your own business, you have to pay attention to the details. And if you don't have time to do that, hire somebody to do that. Like, for example, the books, the accounting books for your business, or maybe somebody doing the web page for you, or maybe editing the videos for you if you just don't want to do that kind of thing. So, and if you don't pay attention to the details, the quality deteriorates. And this is why details are important, and you have a tendency to ignore them. Now, if you have the destructor star, again, you want to be a disruptor. You want to be an innovator. You want to actually try to do things like this. But if you're running your own business, make sure you have adequate planning and a system in place that will take care of the details. Otherwise, you may find that you don't know what money has been spent. You don't know if you made a profit, that kind of thing. Even though you may have disrupted everything, you don't even know if your business is making money. So that is what a destructor has issues with. They focus on being a disruptor and not on their business basics. Now, brain stars generally like to do more than think. They feel better in terms of they feel like they're doing their job better if it's something that they actually do. And so this can be a lot of different things. Taking care of people is a big thing with brain star. They really are good at that. But especially if they're running their own business, you have to make sure that you get help where you need it, so that you, again, don't ignore things like, are you making any money? The grass star, they're excellent at taking advantage of the moment. They will see a chance to earn money where others might see it but probably don't, and they'd be willing to take the risk. But when they become greedy, this is when they get into trouble, because they have a tendency to lose it if they become too greedy. Now, the pillar star likes a lot of stability. They're good at observing and analyzing, and they should keep that in mind, especially if they're running their own business, and that should be a business related to analyzing things. But their personal skills may be a little bit lacking. So they might have a tendency to, especially if they quit a job and start their own business, they burn bridges with the people that used to employ them. And when there's a downturn and in the economy, they may find they don't have enough clients anymore, but their old business isn't going to put any work towards them. If you contact your old employer, they'll say, oh yeah, sure, we'll send you some business, but you never hear from them again. So if you burn the bridges, you may be in trouble when the economy is not so great. And there will always be times when the economy is not so great. Now, the bird star is quite interesting. They lead people through empathy, but make sure you delegate. Make sure you have people doing all the busy work in your company, because you don't have the energy and you can't handle all that work and that pressure. You're just a little bit more delicate, but you're very good at leading people through empathy. You're very good at inspiring people, and that's where you should focus. So now we go on to the stems. And just like when we're talking about for your career, these stems tell you more about your attitude towards work, not so much what is good, what career or what topic is good for you. So again, remember it's the life door in your natal chart. You have to look at that. And we've done this before. I try to go through it a little quicker, but these are very good employees. They can be a little inflexible as at running their own business or being employers. That is, you could work basically for yourself, or you could actually have a company that has more employees. But you don't change with the times. So this, if you're going to be in a field, you want to be in a field that doesn't have a lot of changes. And not too many of those exist anymore because most industries change pretty regularly. Now the yin wood is quite good at solving problems, and they should run with that, of course, but they do lack a bit of endurance, so they want to make sure that they structure their business in a way that allows them to take breaks, or if they employ others, they have to have somebody who can take over some of the work when they need a break. They don't need much break, but sometimes that's enough to be a bit of a problem. That is, they have trouble getting exactly what they need done. Now, again, the Bing Fire, these guys usually are very good at running businesses because they are passionate. They're self-starters. They will find a way to get things done. But they do have to be careful that whatever business they want to run is something that people want. They may be very passionate about it, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that anybody will be interested in it. So they have to, before they start a business, they have to make sure that what they want to do, people actually want to buy. So the Ding Fire, they're actually slightly better employees than employers. That is, they're better working for others. Their trust issues, if they've been burned before, can really harm them in trying to run a company because they just simply don't trust. And they don't even trust that they'll get paid by the people that use their services. So this is why they're better at being an employee and having somebody else take care of those other issues. Now the Yang Earth, again, these people are pretty good, but they're also quite inflexible. So it depends on their on some of the other stems in their chart, whether or not they're flexible enough to run their own business. And the same is true really for the Yang wood. It depends on the mix of stems. But in general, they also may, they've got the right stuff to be an employer or start their own business, but they have to be able to change. They have to know they have to do that. And if they can accept that, then they can actually be pretty good running at their own business. Now the Yin Earth is again a bit more better off being employed by somebody else because they prefer to support and nurture people than deal with all the stuff that a business owner has to deal with. So maybe they're not as suited as some of these others. And when things go bad, they can get quite sensitive and moody, which makes it very hard to keep your business going. And you just want to give up. So, but again, if you have a good job and you have extra money, you invest that extra money and that will make you wealthy. So there's no need to run your own business. You can become very wealthy just by investing. Now, the Yang metal, these guys are actually pretty darn good at running their own business because they're objective and cool-headed, and they don't panic. So that's very good. They're a bit inflexible, but not nearly as inflexible as the Yang earth or the Yang wood. So they change easier. So they can be in a more dynamic industry than the other two. The yin metal is also another one that's a little bit better at being employed by somebody else, that is a career, rather than running their own business. They're intelligent, but they spend a lot of time worrying about how they look. But they're very good looking usually. I mean, they find a way to be appealing, not in a garish way, but in a more classical, elegant way. And they're great at networking in general. But the problem is they tend to be more image than substance. So running their own business they can't deliver. That's the problem. Some can, of course, and of course it depends on whatever they have here otherwise, but they run the risk of promising something they cannot deliver on. But they're great in sales. If you have a company, they're great as an employee in sales, especially if they have the Phoenix spirit. These people would be very, very good at sales. Now the Yang water, they're again good planners, but they're awfully laid back. So they're not too serious about the job, and they're not too serious about running their own business either. So they're better as working in a career than running their own business. But if they're going to run their own business, it should be a business like wedding planning or party planning, something like this, because they are good planners and they actually enjoy having to deal with problems. That gives them energy. So that that is quite interesting, that they actually enjoy problems. So now the yin water, they're creative, communicative, but they often are quite meek. So they're not, they may be able to run their own business where they employ only themselves, but they're not good at dealing with employees, and they're not necessarily good with dealing with clients that don't want to pay. So they're better off in a career too. It's not 100% that, yang and yin, if you're yang, you can run your own business. Yin, it's better to work for others. It's not 100%, but there is some real thing there. There is a lot of the yin is not quite so good for business, that is running their own business, but they're really good at being an employee. Now let's go to some examples. So here's the first example. Now this person has the moon spirit, so this means that knowledge is important to their ability to become wealthy. And the destructor star says that they need to be innovative and they can even disrupt the status quo. That's good for them. Now when it comes to the stems, you notice we have an extra stem here. That isn't unusual at all, and you may well have this. In fact, you will have this somewhere in your chart. It's just a matter of whether or not it's in one of the important sectors. Now this, although it is smaller, it's not any less important. It's smaller because there's just not enough room to have it bigger. And so this is as equally important. These two are equally important and equally important to this one here. Now, if you happen to have the chief here, you're going to have the Jia, that is the Yang wood, will also be in the heaven stem. And if you've looked at a Qi Men chart, you will know that in the center box, there's usually just a heaven stem and an earth stem, and they're identical. And whatever is here actually shows up here and here, somewhere in the chart. But the reason why you may want to print it out is because on the screen, sometimes these are so small, you really can't read them. So this is why it's a good idea to print it out so that you can zoom in. Now, I happen to know this person fairly well because it is me. And when I look at the stems, well, like I say here, they're a mixed bag. They're quite different from each other. And I would say that I don't see much of the sin in me. I was a tomboy as a kid. I've never worn makeup. I hardly wear any jewelry. I have a wedding ring, and that's basically it. This elegant, refined, I've never, ever think I've looked that way. And I don't care to look that way. And when it comes to networking, it's painful for me to network. I'm pretty much introverted. I really hate talking to strangers. I've never been able to network at any decent level. And here I'm not networking. Here I'm teaching. So I can do that. It's just networking is like, no way. And so I do think my career has suffered because of that, because I'm not very good at networking. But that's the way it is. Now, I do think that these two are a little bit more there. Certainly the creative side is there. So let's look at this and say, okay, what has this person done that is in line with this? Because I'm over 60, I've done enough in my life that I can make some judgments. So in their job, in their actual career, they proved, that is, I proved that a gold standard in how to treat soil moisture moving through layered soils. There was a gold standard method that was out there longer than I had been alive at that point. And I proved that it didn't get the right answer. Now, the gold standard, it's called this because it was a very slow program, especially for the old computers, but it was considered to get the right answer. And but this was used in climate modeling, and you have to simplify it because you can't have one piece of the software bog everything down. So everybody would simplify their methods and compare it to the gold standard. And so I wrote a paper along with a student, and we submitted it, and it was rejected. And the editor said, I have a friend, which means a colleague, that says, who's an expert in this field, and says you're wrong. The nice thing about mathematics, at least in this case, there is a right answer. And we were right and they were wrong. So it took me another week to write up something, and what I did is I simplified the soil. So although we use the same mathematical method, simplified the soil so everybody knows what the answer is. And I showed my method gives the answer, their method does not. And it was accepted. And that certainly shook up that field of study, or that little tiny subfield of that study. And it certainly gave me some notoriety. Now, I want to remind you, this is not my legal name and not the name in which I actually published under. I do that because I have a psycho ex-fiance, and I don't want him to try to ruin my business before it even gets started. So you won't find my name listed there if you actually search the scientific literature. But I do have a paper. And when we come to the business, this business that is, I have basically rejected the way most of the other people out there doing these kind of videos for feng shui. They give you a little hint there, a little hint here, but they don't explain things very well. And I think that especially the masters, they will give enough of a hint that if you really understand feng shui, it'll make sense. But most people will just say, oh, that's interesting, but they won't understand it. And I think that the masters believe if they give out these secrets, what they consider secrets, nobody will hire them. I think they don't realize how busy people are in life today. And so that they don't have time to go to the detail that they need to actually do this. But it helps when they understand how this works, so that when a recommendation is given, it can be explained to them in a way that they can understand. They may not be able to go the other direction, that is to start with it and figure it all out, but they can understand what is being told, and that makes them a lot more confident. And I will tell you this, having been a scientist, feng shui is a lot closer to a science. It's a lot more self-consistent and everything than, for example, a religion. If you've ever read the Bible, really read the Bible, you will note that it has so many self-contradictions that, you know, you can't take it as literal truth, because it can't be, because there's just too many self-contradictions. So then you're left with what do you choose? So it is a little tricky with religion. It is not tricky with science or even feng shui. Now, this is also another person, a real person. They're very similar. They have the gung and the gui. They don't have the sin. And instead of the destructor, they have hero. So again, there's only really two differences. And the big thing is here, the hero star has to get on stage. They inspire people, or at least they want to make the world better. That is also part of the hero star. They have a cause they're fighting for. And but since they have creativity and coolness, they actually have some good business sense. You know, it works quite well. This is Bill Gates. Now, a lot of people do Elon Musk, and there's tons of people who have analyzed him. If you want to know about him, you can. I haven't looked at his chart, but you know, I'm picking people that I haven't heard being analyzed all that much. Now, this is another indication. And we have a destructor again, but this time it's with harmony. And we have a different combination here, although we still have the gung. And this person has shaken up the status quo. He is generally good with people and respects them regardless of their opinion, and doesn't belittle them. He may not agree with them. He may actually very much disagree with them, but he's not going to insult them. He's cool-headed and curious. I think that's clear. And he happens to have Fu Yin in the doors, which means he does the right thing at the right time. And that does appear to be the case. This is Barack Obama. Now, he actually has also a pretty interesting guardian spirit sector, but it took me a while to find his time of birth. That was why I didn't include him in the guardian spirit sector video. Now again, if you are interested in getting your Qi Men or your Batsa chart analysis done, I would recommend John Chong, because he seems to know what he's doing, and he's quite a bit like me. He's doing videos that explain things. Now, his videos are a lot longer. He takes like 3 hours to get through all of just one topic when he's talking about the destiny charts. So but he has a lot more information, and I certainly recommend that you watch him too. So that's it. I'd like to thank you for watching. Please feel free to contact me at this email address or leave a comment. And if you do subscribe, I do have regular new videos. And after I finish this stuff with the Qi Men Destiny, I think I'm going to go back and do some more Sanhe Feng Shui. Thank you again for watching.